This morning I want to introduce a couple of speakers that I think that you will find very, very informative. In fact, I would leave you with this warning or admonition. Take notes. First of all, I want to introduce Cesar with Simple Flame. I think you'll find him informative, and I also want to introduce Mason Dukacek. And so with that, we'll get started.
Well, my name is Cesar, Kellar, and Mason. We love to talk about content today. In fact, the previous session, Josh and Scott, they kind of set up the whole thing because they started talking about narrowing focus and talking about identifying your niche and all this stuff. But we're going to take that next step forward and say, we're going to help you plan out some things to how to write content, okay? Before we do that, I'd like everyone to stand, please. I know how these events go. You might have people sitting at your table. Do a good stretch. Introduce yourselves if you don't know yourselves, please. This is what this is all about. All right, now that you guys know each other, exchange business cards, but this is what it's all about, getting out of the office, coming out to meet new people. Hopefully we'll have some good discussions. I encourage participation. For people that participate, we might have some treats for you guys, okay? So don't be shy, raise your hand, interact with us. All right, I'm gonna start with asking just some simple questions. If you've ever had to write content for your business or your company in any way whatsoever, whether it's a blog, whether it's news articles, whether it's something for your website, whether it's a postcard, whether it's it doesn't matter. Raise your hand. All right. Question number 2. Who does that on a weekly basis? Any writers here, editors? All right. You guys are awesome. Writing content all the time is tough, right? So my goal and Mason's goal today is we're going to give you guys some tips. We're going to give you guys some worksheets, and you're going to come out of here with some tools that hopefully not only change your perspective on content, but allow you to start making your life efficient as to how to deliver that message, okay? We're going to talk about 3 things: brand personas, persuasion techniques, and writing for customers, but specifically in customer perspective. You guys ready to get started? All righty. So brand personas, what are they? Why they help? I'm going to give you some samples of them, and there's a worksheet that we have for you. And by the way, all these notes and a lot of the things I prepared in the workbook, so don't feel like you have to take amazing notes. Or is there a really good note taker in the audience out there? Any good note takers? No? If you find one, just cheat off of them. But anyway, Mason's going to help me facilitate some of this interactive stuff with you guys, okay? If you do not have a worksheet, we'll get you one. Page 25. So follow along here. All right, first things first. So what is? A brand persona is pretty much a profile, okay? But rather than it being a generic demographic, it's actually a step closer to getting to know your customer, okay? So how do we prepare one, and what are the uses of, right? Well, we create a name for that person, but it's not just a made-up name. It's a name that we're going to remember, like Bob, Sue, Peggy. It can actually be the name of a customer that represents a certain customer type for you, okay? And it has detailed narrative, but it's written in plain English. There is no format. There is no, I have to write it in a specific way. It's just simple for you, your employees, your team to understand this is who we're talking about. These are our customers, okay? They're just broken down and organized a certain way. So why? Why do we want to have a brand persona? Well, number 1, it allows you to understand your customer better because you're going to have some empathy behind what it's like to be a customer. Too many times, we're all experts in what we do. We know our products, we know our services, we know the steps, we know the procedures, we know the verbiage, we know the nomenclature, but guess what? We're experts. Our customers don't know any of that stuff. So if you're just going on autopilot, it's really easy for you to go, I'm just going to whip this little marketing thing out, and you know all the terms, you know all the steps, and it's okay to you. You have a check spelled, and you're like, okay, post that. But that doesn't mean anything to your customers because they don't know any of that expert stuff that you guys know, right? So if you're going to have empathy with your customer, you've got to start understanding them first and foremost. Next is focusing on pain points. Our customers are motivated and they have triggers to have action based on pain. And that's that little perspective that I want you to change from now on when you're writing content or when you're thinking about planning for content. You can better communicate to a targeted audience if you understand what those pain points are. Because a lot of our services and our products can be consumed by many different groups of people. But those people can have different pain points, right? And the last thing is, if you want to increase your brand awareness and you want a better brand, brand equals relationship. And you cannot have a relationship with someone if you don't have empathy, if you're not trying to communicate to them, and you don't understand their pain points. All right? So I'm going to give you a quick example. I'm blessed that I get to work with a pretty big corporation, Adobe, and we are actually a premier partner, and we help produce things with some of their software. And due to our nice relationship that we've built and earned over time, they've kind of unveiled some of these secrets and some of these things and some of the personas that they use for their software. So just to hit the point home, I wanted to share just a very simple example, but this is real stuff. These are the actual names and the actual brand personas that Adobe uses for one of their software points, okay? So the platform that we use is called Business Catalyst, and it does three things. You can design websites with it, you can build websites with it, and you can manage websites after they're built. Pretty simple stuff. So the first example that I have, designers. When you think about a designer, that's a customer type for them that uses this software. Let's think about a designer. They're creative, they're fun, they like colors, they know type, they know space. Whether they're a graphic designer, meaning print, or whether it's web, whether it's publications. They love art. They love things to look good, look organized, stand out. Okay? Very creative people. Okay? That particular persona is called Marissa for them, for this particular software. So as we have closed sessions and closed meetings at Adobe about improving the software, they always ask the question before the meeting, what brand persona are we talking about for this specific content? The entire team immediately engages and goes, Marissa, this meeting's about Marissa. It's not about anyone else. Notice how that perspective immediately changes what you're doing, because the pain points that you're trying to solve are not for everyone. The empathy that you have is for the people that are using this with a certain kind of creativity as far as using the software, right? Now, I'm breaking my rule of putting a whole bunch of content on the slide because that's not good. But the premise is, remember I told you guys simple English? Remember I told you this doesn't have to be difficult? This right here is the start of a great profile, because we're just putting certain points down about here's their fears, here's their concerns. In orange, hopefully you can see, the pain points are the most important part. And the more you can understand, this customer has this pain, this struggle, this concern. These are the obstacles of why they make decisions or don't make decisions. You're really hitting home as to what it means for them to interact with your brand or someone else. Okay? Next one is a developer. If you're a programmer, okay, you're another candidate to use the software. A programmer is pretty much almost opposite of the first brand persona that I talked about, right? They're very analytical, ones and zeros, programming all day. I've met programmers that are so antisocial, they're just wired in or whatnot, and it's awkward to even talk, but they're really, really smart people. Whereas designers are more fun-loving, open people. I mean, when you're talking about two different people, maybe on the opposite end of the spectrum, you got to know pain points for them are X, Y, Z, right? And the actual pain points of what I wrote down, it's not necessarily important for our presentation today, but it's more the premise of, see how simple the English is, you know? We understand that their pain points are totally different. The last one is a small business owner. So the designer and the developer built your website, but now you have to manage it. You're the business owner that's got to manage content and do things with it and look at statistics and run reports and do email marketing and put some blogs. How you're using that software is totally different. Number one, you're probably not a professional at technology, right? And number two is you're probably going to want something that's really easy to use because you're not going to be in the software every day like that designer and that professional. So the premise is, I just wanted to give you an example of how Adobe, even with one small piece of software, because they have many pieces of software, they start breaking down their users into logical, intuitive types. And for you to have empathy with those types, you got to understand those pain points. So with the handout that I have, Mason's going to actually cover something. We created a little tool for you guys, okay? Don't ignore the write-up for right now, but there's a chart, a matrix, if you will, and it basically has the top filled out on those pain points that I was kind of talking about in general format, okay? Below it is blank piece of paper. I'd like to challenge you guys to think about the products or services that you offer and start trying to come up with a brand persona that you believe has specific groupings of pain points and all that stuff. So I'll let Mason step up and kind of walk that worksheet with you, and we'll be good to go.
Good morning. Is this on? We're good. If you pull out this nice sheet that Cesar put together for you, it'll give you the framework for a simple exercise that can really bring focus and clarity to all your marketing and to your marketing messages. When it says personas, one of the things that I've learned a lot from Alan Minster, who's my co-author, and we've known each other for about 14 or 15 years by now. And he sat down with me one time and has taught me a lot about marketing. He said, Mason, who is your decision maker? What problems do they have? What solutions do you have to offer? And what are the benefits associated with it? Now we're talking at a higher level, and some of the things about personas, more about their personality and pain points and things like that. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper. But every one of you can, and I would encourage you can do this, and I would encourage each of you to try doing this. But we're talking about personas. Cesar gave you the example for his business with one of his products. He said his personas are a designer, a developer, and a small business owner. Think about who your decision makers are. And you'll notice it says personas underneath. Go ahead and put that. Go ahead and start listing some of the names of the decision makers that you would deal with. For example, and I don't really care whether your business is business to consumer or business to business. If you're selling business to business and you sell something like pre-employment tests, who are the decision makers? That could be a vice president of sales who's looking to hire good salespeople. It could be a vice president of human resources. It could be a company president. Those are three different people, and those people come to work every day with different problems at their feet. I mean, the HR director is not coming to work every day worried about the same thing that the president is. Not the same thing that the vice president of sales is working problems. They're different issues, different perspectives. So identify what pain do those people have every day. What are their problems? And list them. Then identify the solutions. What product or service is it that you offer that can address that pain? And then finally, what are the benefits? And one of the areas where I see a lot of people make mistakes is they put things in the benefits column that actually belongs in the solution column. And here is the little tip that will help you make sure that you don't make that same mistake. I'm going to write this sentence down. What this means to you is blank. What this means to you is blank. Now, Cesar did a very nice job with laying out for the different personas he had. The designer, they have no programming experience, no database experience, no e-commerce experience. Second level question is, well, what's the solution? Well, in his particular example, he used the Business Catalyst platform. And what does a Business Catalyst platform do for the rest of us that don't know technology? It's five systems in one. CMS stands for Content Management System. So people can manage their own blogs and create their own content. Customer relationship management. How do you track what's going on with your different customers and prospects? Email marketing, reports, and analytics, as well as e-commerce. So the Business Catalyst system is the solution for people with problems in those arenas. And then it's a hosted solution. So those are all the answers to the pain. And the next question is benefits. Notice he did this ahead of time, which I thought was great. And notice in his particular case, the solution is the same for all of those people. You don't have to have necessarily, if you do, that's great, but you don't have to have necessarily different products or different services for the same folks. You just need different applications of those products or services to meet their needs. Yes, Dale?
Would the solution be more your brand promise, and the benefits would be the extension or expansion of that brand promise to your various customers?
Let me give, maybe. I would almost say it's the solution is what you offer them. It's like, I have this product that solves this problem, right? The result would be the benefit. The solution is what action are you going to take to solve that problem. For example, I use the example with the pre-employment test. If the problem that a VP of sales has is that the vice president of sales was probably an excellent salesperson. And now his or her job security and income is no longer tied to their personal ability to sell. So they got to go and they got to build a sales team. And their job security and income is now no longer tied to their personal ability to sell and work ethic. It's their ability to recruit, hire, train, and develop a sales team to go out and represent that product and service. So what is a sales manager? Their problem is, hey, I need to retain my sales staff. I can't have these people leaving because it takes me too much time and too much money to recruit, train, and develop a sales team and have someone leave. Second of all, I need them to perform at a high level. So as far as solutions, the solution might be pre-employment testing to help them hire the best people from the get-go so that the sales manager knows, hey, I need to invest my time and energy in this person because they're a good fit. I might also use that same assessment as a solution. Same solution is an assessment, maybe not for pre-employment, but targeting training and developmental needs. So the solution is still an assessment. One case, pre-employment testing. Another case, targeting training and developmental needs of my existing staff so I can get more productivity and performance out of this staff. So there we have, the persona would be the VP of sales. The problem is hiring the right people and getting better performance and productivity out of them. The solution is an employment assessment, pre-employment and afterwards could be the same assessment. What are the benefits? What this means to you is you can hire right the first time, or you can get what this means to you is you can get more productivity and performance out of your existing staff if you can identify their developmental needs. So that's just right off the top, and each one of you can do this. So I know that you probably have multiple businesses. My challenge to you is, if you haven't already, is to take a few minutes and write down the personas that you have. And maybe for the first one that you have, depending upon how fast we go, maybe the top 3 problems that they may have, one or two of the solutions you offer, and maybe a benefit statement or not, or 2. So my challenge to you is to take a few minutes right now, and then what I'll do is, depending upon time, may I ask some of you to give feedback on what you came up with so some of the others can see what you learned and how you applied it. So please take a few minutes.
Hi, I run a collection agency. So the persona or the people that we go after is like accounts receivable managers or loss prevention or the accountants or the office managers. And the problem they have is people aren't paying them, so they have either cash flow issue or a huge, bad debt. So then the solution is, if they hire us, we don't charge them to collect. We take a percentage of what we collect, but we don't charge. So they're not out any money out of their pocket to give the debt to us. We handle it for them. We collect, as much as we can. We give them money back, which they weren't getting on their own. And then, of course, like that, I guess that goes into the benefits, is then they're getting their money back, and we're the experts. We know the laws. We did it for them. They don't have their staff trying to collect money, which everybody hates doing, and everybody wins.
Great example. Thank you for sharing.
And Julie, you could actually dig even a little deeper, I would suggest, with your pain points, like, hey, they want their money. There's people that want their money back, and there's also people that want their money that may not have enough money to go pay someone to do it, so that would be even more dialed in by the folks that they're way behind on debt and whatnot. I don't have the money to pay someone to do it, so because of the way... Correct. So what I'm encouraging you to do is to dig deeper, because there's not only the people that need to collect, but there's also those people that need to collect that don't have more money to chase bad debt, or don't have the time to chase bad debt, even if they had the money. So I would just go deeper. Yes, Steve.
Thank you, Mason. This doesn't relate to my business, but it's an example that I've given in the past with respect to personas. Say if you are a motorcycle shop owner, well, we all know that all motorcycle owners are alike, right? Not so much. So you have one motorcycle owner that has Sam. Sam and Betsy, they're a married couple, clean cut. They like to ride motorcycles on the weekend. They have a couple of kids, professional jobs. That's one group of people, and they have different instincts and things in the lifestyle that they want. Then you've got Zeke. Now, Zeke has a real long beard, and he is completely in the hardcore biker motorcycle style. And so Zeke, he has a whole different frame of reference and a different set of needs, different set of interests with respect to the motorcycle. So they both like motorcycles, but they are entirely different people, different sets of needs, different sets of aspirations or pain points.
Thanks for sharing, Steve.
Anybody else?
Anybody else would like to share?
Kathy. Kathy, you're up.
Well, I think I have three personas. So one is associations and meeting planners for my speaking, and their problems would be they need speakers for their events that are easy to work with, flexible, and then so some of this, and then I have the solutions. The other is a business owner who needs more time, is stressed, frustrated. So then I would come back with being able to help them to reduce some of those issues. And then the individual professional, basically, same thing.
Do you want to take one of those and pull out what you could recommend as the problem, the solution, and benefits, just along one of those?
So on the business owner, they don't have any time. A lot of times they're unorganized. They have too much email to deal with. They need staff that needs help that they need to delegate to. So a solution is I have coaching, productivity coaching, and then I also do training and QuickBooks, Outlook. And then their benefits, they gain more time, they gain focus, they reduce stress, and they gain time, money, and energy.
So let's give Kathy a big hand because she nailed that. And I like what you said at the very end. If you noticed all of the benefits she listed, you could very easily put what this means to you is you improve focus, you save time, you save. So every single thing that what I was listening for was when she went down the benefits column, every single one of those benefits you plugged in could very easily fit into what this means to you is. So now you have the focus of your marketing content for any particular group of people you want to target. Cesar's up.
We have time for one more example if you want, and then we can move on.
Hi, one of my customers is a national marketing company, and so they may be working for Anheuser one day and Stiefel another, and you never know what they're going to need. So they have a real high pressure setup where they have to know something and know something fast, and they need a quality resource person, and it varies from time to time what they need. So you have to know a little bit of everything. So what I have for them that's helpful is I have a full line promotional product website that they can go to that has a full search bar, and it's extremely good. And then we have a resource person for them. When they call, immediately someone can call and take care of them. That's the two products that we service them with. And the benefits to them is that they can have 1 or 1,000 pieces of information. If they need one of something or if they need 1,000 of something, the benefit is that we're able to produce that either in our place or through this website immediately. And it makes them look good and competent, and that we get to be a partner in their results. And they have quick resources without doing research, and that reduces their stress.
Round of applause for Diane.
Thank you, Mason. All right, next part is we're going to cover some persuasion techniques. That first part was kind of just general planning on where do I want to start writing content for the people that I do business with. This next part is a little bit of strategy, and marketing professionals use persuasion techniques. Next slide. And it's all because of power of influence. So I'm going to go over these major persuasion techniques, and the challenge for you today is either A, identifying has that technique ever been used on you? Number one. Number two, have you ever used any of those techniques? Sometimes you can leverage multiple techniques together. Have you ever thought of doing that? So I'm going to cover them, give examples, and then we're going to try to see, Mason's going to go over some examples and seeing if you guys can identify which particular technique it is. Okay? Next slide. So the first one, see if I can say this right, reciprocation. Not bad. So we're humans, right? And there's a human characteristic in us, for most of us, that if I help you, you're going to want to help me back. Scratch my back, I scratch your back. If you're kind to me, I'll be kind back, right? So when you apply this to business terms, if I give an example, it's, let's say I have a website, and I produce amazing, great information for free, no charge. And you really like the information that I'm pumping out. And then I have a call to action that says, hey, if you really see value and like the stuff that we're continuing to deliver to you, would you mind sharing this with other business owners? Simple question, right? No strings attached, no money. That's a form of reciprocation, okay? Next one, commitment. Out of all 7 of them, this is the most abstract one, okay? This is behavior equals beliefs. And the theory here is just about being consistent. This really plays in government, and politicians, and people that have a strong opinion on something. And it's that you have to take a stance. But once you take a stance on something, you got to be committed to it. Meaning you can't be going around changing your mind. Hey, widget A is the best widget in the world. 2 weeks later, actually, widget B is the best in the world. 2 months later, you know what? I changed my mind. Widget C is actually the way to go. Who's going to believe me next time I say anything, right? So take a stance and be committed, okay? Next one. Social proof. I think this was pretty easy. That basically means I go with the flow. If I look back and I find a good example of this is maybe at the airport a couple years back, waiting at the gate, and you look around and everyone's on their devices. And then when I start looking at it, it's like Apple, 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 BlackBerry, Apple, 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 Samsung. Now, it might have changed now. There's a little bit more variety. But at one time, it's like, oh my God, everyone's got an Apple device. Well, if you're in the market for buying a thing, do you think that kind of resonates with you just a little bit? Like, if everyone's bought Apple stuff, there's probably something to it, right? That's an example of going with the flow. Trends, fashions, clothing, there's always trends there. Next one. Authority. While he gets back to that, authority is pretty simple, and that just means that we believe in experts. And when an expert says something, we are more inclined to believe an expert than just any Joe Schmo, okay? So if a licensed physician with tons of experience and thousands of surgeries behind his name, proven track record says, you don't need back surgery, you're more inclined to go, you know what, I'm going to get a second opinion, I can do this without it. Whereas if that surgeon says, I've done this many, 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 many times, and I can solve your issue, that particular expert, you're going to believe that person rather than talking to your spouse that's not an MD going, what do you think? You should think I should have back surgery? So that's authority. Scarcity is the simplest one, right? It's running out. I need it. I need it now. How many husbands out there have wives that come home with a brand new pair of shoes? I got it because it was the last pair and I had to have it. Or vice versa, you know, the husband's like, hey, I bought my golf driver. It was the last one on the rack. There's a tendency to go, I need it and I need it now. Simple supply and demand, economics at play. Framing is a fun one. Framing is sometimes when you're presented multiple options, you might not know the absolute value of that particular option. So when you're thinking about comparing options, they might position one option and go, hey, this is really expensive, really big, really whatever, and it makes you think about the other option that's not so expensive. Hey, that's pretty good. An example is restaurants do this a lot. Have you ever seen something outrageous on a menu? Hey, you get the Alaskan crab and the prime rib and a bottle of Dom Perignon for $399. And you're like, hold up, that's a lot of money. That $50 steak is looking pretty good right now. And now you don't even think twice about the $50 steak that you're about to buy. Okay? Last one is salience. Salience is a pretty interesting one, and I think everyone here has been exposed to it. And salience basically means in the moment, attention, you have a specific attention, and you're more willing to take an action because of the timing and the attention to the matter. So how many of you have gone to Best Buy and bought an electronic gadget? You go up to the front desk, and they're like, hey, would you like the warranty for this thing in case it breaks? Have you guys dealt with that? Or this is going to happen with toys coming soon for Christmas. You go to Toys R Us, you buy all the toys for the kids, and at the counter, they're like, hey, would you like the batteries that go with those toys? And the batteries are right there. Do you think that's coincidence? It's not. It's salience, okay? So those are the examples, and what I'd like to do right now is Mason's going to stand up. He's going to help me. He's got some of these particular techniques. He's going to give those examples, and what I want is people to interact, raise your hand, see if you can identify the correct technique, just to make sure we all got it home. So fire away.
Thanks, Cesar. You have your awards ready?
Oh, yeah. I'll go get them.
All right. Cesar asked me, he goes, Mason, can you think up a couple scenarios that you've been through and what type of persuasion techniques have been applied in those particular scenarios? I'm like, sure, no problem. He's like, well, we're going to test our audience, and we're going to see how they do. So what I'd like to do, because like to reward those who show initiative and enthusiasm and confidence in their answers. So the first person that raised their hand, when I ask, we got a special reward for you if you're correct. So make it a little exciting. I participate in ultramarathons and some triathlons and stuff, and so I'm like kind of picky on my materials. Well, I was getting ready to go do a long foot race, and I wanted to know what kind of socks I should get because I didn't want blisters. I see this ad in a triathlon magazine or an ultra running magazine, I can't remember which, and it showed the start line of the Badwater Ultramarathon. For those of you who don't know, the Badwater Ultramarathon is a 135-mile foot race starting in Death Valley in July. It gets so hot that people have to run on the white line during the day because it'll melt your shoes. So what they did was they took a picture of the starting line of the Badwater Ultramarathon, and every single person had on the same pair of socks. They're called Injinji socks. That was the first hand I saw it. Which method is that? The man, a round of applause, and I think we got a present for him, don't we, Cesar?
Just have him come over there.
What's your name?
Paul Bowie.
Oh, we got a present for you. Where are they? Cesar's got it for you.
And we got 7 minutes to go.
Their answer was social proof. Hey, everybody's doing it. Okay.
Mason, we got minutes, so just.
I got you. Okay, how about
What size is your shirt?
Tony Robbins told this story years ago, and it was about the #1 Girl Scout salesperson in the country. And the way she did it was she would go outside of the bank when everybody had money on Fridays and meet up with the people coming through and said, hey, mister or hey, miss, I am with the Girl Scouts, and we are trying to raise money. It's for this good cause and this good cause and this good cause, and we're having a banquet, and the tables are only $500 a piece, but you can get 10 people at it. And then, of course, people are like, oh, I don't want to spend $500. I want to spend $500. Well, then surely you'd like a few boxes of cookies, wouldn't you? You know. Give her a round of applause. How about I'm at the Arizona Diamondbacks baseball game, watching the Dodgers. This is about a month or two ago. And the Arizona Diamondbacks hit a home run. Dodgers fan catches it. What does he do? Does he keep the home run ball? No, he wants to toss that thing back. Turns out the guy was pretty cool and handed it to a little kid sitting next to him. But how many folks are running around? Do you think you're going to catch a Arizona Diamondbacks fan wearing a Dodgers jersey? What are they really proud of? Is a Blues fan going to wear a Chicago Blackhawks jersey? You got it. Commitment. You're aligning your products or your services with things that people identify with and value. What about, I was in New York City last week. I want to go catch a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden. How do I do this? Well, I could have gone out and dealt with the scalpers at front. No. I went to StubHub, and StubHub said, you got this many seats available at this price? Yes, scarcity. Matter of fact, I messed around too long. I actually lost them and had to do it again. How about Martha Stewart out talking about cooking? Got it. Authority, yes. Look her up, Cesar.
One more, Mason.
One more. How about, let's go with,
It's just the shirt.
all right. How about, I see this special report at a website that says Endurance Athlete's Guide to Success, 140 pages of information so you'll know how to hydrate and fuel your body for the next athletic contest, whatever it may be. 144 pages. Just enter your name and email in the form on this page, and we'll send it right over. Yep, reciprocation. Hook Barry up. Cesar, you're up.
I'll get your shirt in a bit. All right, the last part is writing in customer perspective, okay? So the first exercise was, we talked about a little bit of planning, and what was the most important part? Pain points, right? A lot of us, when we write, okay, and I think Fred has kind of shared some of his wisdom with us, whatever, is people don't care about us. People care about them and their pain points. So if you're going to write, don't write about your story, your accolades, your credentials, your features, and all this stuff, okay? Because people don't care. They just know what is painful for them, and if it resonates, then they're going to engage. So an easy way to start writing in that kind of active tense, is to say, people hire me because. But they hire me because I'm unique at these particular things, and we solve these particular pain points. So if you flip your sheet, we created like a little template for you guys just to give you an example and give you a little template. And if you start thinking in that perspective, it's going to take you a long way, okay? So we talked about engagement from a perspective of writing content, but how to carefully craft that message really comes down to 3 things, right? Number 1, plan for understanding your customer better. Because if you understand your customer better, you're going to be able to have a better relationship with them. If you use some of the techniques that we talked about from a strategy perspective, you can write in terms of those techniques to help you with promotions or triggers or actions. And lastly, when you do write, think about your customer in active perspective and make sure you fill in those pain points, because if you don't, your message is not going to be that engaging, okay? So we'll stop there, kind of like right on time, and we'll open it up for any questions that you guys want.
One thing I'd add to what Cesar just said is on the writing for your from your customer's perspective sheet that he prepared for you, you would be well advised and well served to consider your answer there for each of your different personas. So what you say when you say blank hire us to blank because they typically struggle with blank, which would be your problems, or their problems. They work with us even if that's where you typically put in your obstacles or excuses not to take action. And then our unique blank, what makes you different, that's where that appears. Well, you might come up with, if you've got 3 different personas, then you want to craft that. So if I'm standing in an elevator and Jennifer's next to me and she asks me, oh, so what do you do? Well, hopefully I'm going to say, oh, you're with the school district, and what is it that you do? Because I can tailor my answer based on who she is and what she does. If Fred does something different, I can tailor my answer based on what he does differently. Or if Richard does something separately. So that's, again, when we talk about this persona thing, think about who your audience is first, and then target your message to them. So,
Brief tip, I don't know if James Canada is here. Is he in an audience? He might be somewhere else. Oh, he's not here today. He's an excellent networker, and one of the things he does really, really great is introductions via email or just informal whatever, but he always follows up with an email. And he's really good about taking like an opening simple statement or paragraph and sharing that with the other person. So if you are the type of person that wants to introduce someone, or you're being introduced, how powerful would it be to have a simple paragraph statement that hits all these points, clear as a bell, and that is the first thing that is shared across with other people. Jim does it really, really well. He connects a lot of people. Karen, you connect a lot of people. So these little tips are helpful sometimes when you're just writing a simple introduction. Any questions? Well, I'll leave you with a little joke. I don't know if you can read it, but there you go. It's pretty obvious. Thanks for coming out today, guys. Really appreciate it.